Can I admit something? I used to think skipping out on selfless action was basically a time saver.
Honestly, I get it. Saying no to karma yoga sounds easy until those warnings catch up with you.
Hang tight for a sec, Balor, while we pull together some sloka and sort out what all this disbelief actually means for real life.
So last time we discussed Krishna's beautiful three-step formula for liberated action from verses 3.30 and 3.31.
Right. Dedicating actions, releasing outcomes, and finding that inner calm. It felt very aspirational, very positive.
Exactly. But today, in verses 3.32 and 3.33, the tone shifts dramatically. Krishna issues a stark warning about what happens if we choose to ignore this path. It's the other side of the coin.
The what if you don't clause. I'm guessing it's not great.
Not great is an understatement. By the end of our talk today, we'll understand why rejecting this teaching leads to what the Gita calls being befooled and ruined. And we'll tackle a very tricky-sounding verse about our own unchangeable nature.
Okay, that sounds intense. Let's get into it.
So, verse 3.32 is incredibly direct. Krishna says, "But those who, out of envy, disregard my teachings and do not practice them, are to be known as bereft of all knowledge, befooled, and ruined in their endeavors for perfection."
Befooled and ruined. Wow, that's not subtle. Why envy, though? That word stands out to me.
It's a great question. Commentators suggest it's not just jealousy of God, but a kind of cynical fault-finding. It's the mindset that says, this is impractical, or this won't work for me, or finding reasons to dismiss the teaching without ever trying it. It's a defense mechanism.
So it's a preemptive rejection, and the result is being bereft of all knowledge. It sounds like it's a self-inflicted blindness.
That's the perfect way to put it. You close yourself off from the wisdom that could bring you peace. But then, just as we're processing this heavy warning, verse 3.33 comes in and seems to throw a wrench in the whole thing.
Oh.
It says, "Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature, for all living beings follow their nature. What can repression accomplish?"
Wait, okay, so on one hand, follow this teaching or you're ruined. But on the other, everyone just follows their own nature anyway. That feels like a total contradiction.
It does, and we're going to unravel that. But first, let's make that warning in verse 3.32 really concrete. Forget ancient scripture for a moment. Let's try a little thought experiment. Can you think of a modern scenario where someone rejects selfless action?
Sure. What about a colleague who is laser focused on getting a promotion? They only do tasks that get them noticed, they manage every conversation to their advantage, and they see every project as just a stepping stone.
Perfect example. Now, walk me through the spiritual darkness and confusion that results from that mindset. What does that person's inner world feel like?
Oh, it would be exhausting. Constant anxiety about results, right? Fear of failure, seeing coworkers as rivals. Relationships would be totally transactional. There's no real connection, just calculation.
Exactly. And what happens if they don't get the promotion?
Devastation. All that effort feels wasted. They'd be resentful, maybe even despairing, because the outcome was the only thing that mattered. The work itself had no value.
And that is precisely being befooled and ruined. Befooled by the ego's promise that a promotion would bring lasting happiness, and ruined because, as you said, the entire endeavor becomes meaningless without the desired fruit. This isn't divine punishment, it's the natural, psychological consequence of rejecting karma yoga.
Huh. Okay, seeing it as a natural outcome rather than a punishment makes a huge difference.
It's the core of the teaching. So now let's go back to that big contradiction. Verse 3.32 says, you must follow this path. And 3.33 says, everyone acts according to their nature. How do we reconcile this?
Yeah, I'm still stuck on that. If my nature, my prakriti, is just to be anxious and competitive, is the Gita saying I'm doomed to be ruined?
Not at all. And this is the genius of the Gita. The key is in that last line. What can repression accomplish? The teaching isn't to repress or destroy your nature, it's to channel it.
Channel it? What does that mean?
Imagine your nature as a powerful, raging river. Verse 3.33 is acknowledging the power of that river. Trying to build a dam to just stop it, to repress it, is foolish. The river will eventually break the dam or flood everything.
Okay, that makes sense. Suppression doesn't work long term.
Right. But the path of yoga, the teaching from verse 3.32, is like building channels and hydroelectric turbines. You're not stopping the river. You are skillfully redirecting its immense power towards a higher constructive purpose.
Oh, I see. So if my nature is competitive, I don't try to stop being competitive. I compete to be the most helpful person on the team or to solve the toughest problem for the good of the project?
That's exactly it. You use that competitive fire, but you detach it from the ego's need for personal victory and attach it to a selfless goal. You work with your nature, not against it. Rejecting the teaching is like letting the river run wild and flood the valley.
Okay, that reframing is incredibly helpful, but I can see a couple of traps here. The first one is thinking, well, it's just my nature to be lazy, or it's just my nature to be selfish, using it as an excuse.
Yes, that's the trap of fatalism. It's one of the most common misinterpretations. Your nature, your prakriti, is your starting point, not your destiny. Verse 333 describes the landscape, but verse 332 provides the map and compass. Using your nature as an excuse is like throwing away the map and then wondering why you're lost.
Right. The map is the teaching on how to navigate the landscape of my own tendencies. What's another common challenge?
Spiritual burnout. This happens when someone tries to force selflessness. They act the part, maybe volunteering or being overly helpful at work, but internally they're still craving recognition or thanks. When it doesn't come, they feel resentful and exhausted.
It's inauthentic. The action is selfless, but the intention isn't.
Precisely. The research calls it forced service, and it's unsustainable. The solution is to start smaller. Don't try to be a saint overnight. Find one small, genuine act you can do without any expectation of return. Let a car merge in traffic without needing a thank you wave. Do a household chore just because it needs doing, not so someone else will notice. It's a muscle you build over time. So, let's bring this all together. Today, we've seen two powerful, seemingly opposed verses. First, a severe warning in 3.32. Ignoring the path of selfless action leads to inner chaos, confusion, and ruin, not as a punishment, but as a natural consequence.
And second, in 3.33, an acknowledgement of our powerful inner nature, our prakriti, which isn't an excuse, but the raw material we have to work with.
Exactly. The great challenge and beauty of this path is not to suppress that nature, but to skillfully channel its energy toward a higher, selfless purpose. That is the art of karma yoga.
It's a much more dynamic and compassionate approach than just be good, don't be bad. It's about self-understanding.
Is. So for our practice this week, I want to give everyone a two-step exercise. First, take a moment to honestly identify one of your strongest natural tendencies. Are you ambitious, analytical, nurturing, creative, critical? No judgment, just observation.
Okay, identify the river.
Then, the second step is to brainstorm one way you can channel that tendency into a small, selfless act this week. If you're analytical, maybe you can help a friend organize a complicated budget. If you're nurturing, check in on someone who's having a tough time, purely for their sake. Use your unique nature for good and just notice how it feels.